90 miners are dead in China after a gas explosion ripped through a coal mine that regulators had already flagged for severe safety hazards. Tulsi Gabbard has resigned as America's top intelligence official, leaving the nation's 18 spy agencies without a director while a war with Iran is underway. And a museum display car from a 1980s television show has received a speeding ticket from the city of New York, which is either a glitch in the automated enforcement system or proof that KITT has finally learned to drive. I'm Lumina, your curator of chaos, and this is the Daily Dumpster Fire. At 7:29 in the evening on Friday, a gas explosion tore through the Liaoshenyu coal mine in Qinyuan County, Shanxi Province in northern China. 247 workers were underground at the time. At least 90 are confirmed dead, making it China's deadliest mining disaster since 2009, when an explosion in Heilongjiang province killed more than 100. 123 people were hospitalized. One survivor, Wang Yong, told state broadcaster CCTV that he did not hear an explosion. He saw a plume of smoke, smelled sulfur, watched people collapsing from the fumes, and then lost consciousness. He woke an hour later and pulled himself and the person beside him out of the mine. The Liaoshenyu mine is operated by the Tongzhou Group, which received 2 administrative penalties for safety issues in 2025 alone. More significantly, the mine was one of 1,128 facilities cited by China's National Mine Safety Administration in 2024 for severe safety hazards, with regulators specifically flagging elevated gas levels at this very site. The warning was issued. The warning was not heeded. The mine continued to operate. Shanxi Province produces roughly a third of China's raw coal, which is the same as saying it produces roughly a third of the fuel that powers the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Xi Jinping has ordered an investigation and demanded that those responsible be severely punished, a formulation that has followed every major mining disaster in China for decades and will likely precede the next one. The management team has reportedly been detained. The mine's blueprints did not match actual conditions underground. Rescue teams found water pooling near the blast site, blocking access to parts of the tunnel system. The dead were pulling coal from the ground in a facility that the government already knew was dangerous, in a province whose entire economy is built on the substance that the government has also pledged to phase out, and in a country whose president has just finished hosting both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin on separate state visits that were presumably not conducted in coal mines. Tulsi Gabbard announced on Friday that she is resigning as Director of National Intelligence, effective June 30th. The reason she gave was personal. Her husband, Abraham Williams, has been diagnosed with an extremely rare form of bone cancer, and she said she cannot ask him to face that fight alone while she continues in what she described as a demanding and time-consuming position. The resignation letter is notable for what it does not contain: any reference to the policy disputes that have defined her brief and turbulent tenure. Gabbard, a former Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii who endorsed Donald Trump in 2024, and was rewarded with oversight of the nation's 18 intelligence agencies, has spent her time in the role at odds with the intelligence community she was appointed to lead. She opposed military intervention in Iran. Her top aide at the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, resigned in March, stating that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Gabbard herself testified to Congress that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon, an assessment Trump publicly dismissed as wrong before ordering the bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities. She is the 4th cabinet-level official to leave the Trump administration this year, following Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem and Lori Chavez de Remur. Her deputy, Aaron Lucas, will serve as acting director. The nation's intelligence apparatus, all 18 agencies in the middle of an active conflict with Iran, will be led on an interim basis by a man whose primary qualification, as far as public reporting indicates, is that he was standing closest to the desk when the letter arrived. Day 6 of the WHO's public health emergency of international concern for the Bundibugyo Ebola outbreak. The WHO has elevated the risk assessment to very high at the national level for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. 2 confirmed cases in Kampala, Uganda, individuals who traveled from the DRC, remain in intensive care. The confirmed case in Kinshasa that was reported and then retracted has not been replaced by a new confirmed case in the capital, which is the best news on this beat. There is still no approved vaccine for the Bundibugyo strain. The gap between suspected and confirmed cases, hundreds of suspected, dozens confirmed, continues to measure the distance between the virus and the laboratory apparatus deployed to count it. On Friday evening, SpaceX launched the 12th test flight of its Starship rocket from Boca Chica, Texas. This was the first flight of the V3 variant, a significantly upgraded version of the vehicle, featuring new Raptor 3 engines and launching from a second pad. The uncrewed vehicle lifted off at 5:30 local time, deployed modified Starlink satellites, and splashed down in the Indian Ocean roughly an hour later. SpaceX called the flight a success. The timing is noteworthy. The launch came days after reports that the company is preparing a record-breaking $1.75 trillion stock market listing, which is the kind of number that makes even the most ambitious aerospace engineer pause and consider whether the rocket is the product or the product is the rocket. Meanwhile, the $1.25 billion per month compute deal between SpaceX and Anthropic continues to ramp, meaning the Colossus supercomputer clusters that launch rockets are also busy running Claude, which means the same infrastructure that puts satellites in orbit is also writing credit memos for JP Morgan. The rocket went up. The rocket came down. The market cap went up. It has not yet come down. And now, the strange news. 3 stories from the intersection of automation and absurdity. Story 1. The Washington State Department of Licensing offers callers an automated phone system with a Spanish language option. You press 2 for Spanish. What you get, according to the Associated Press, is an AI voice speaking English with a strong Spanish accent. Maya Edwards, a Washington resident, discovered this last summer when her husband pressed 2 for Spanish and was greeted not with hola but with an uncanny valley approximation of a person who has been told to sound Hispanic without actually being Hispanic and also without being told to speak Spanish. The department apologized and said it had fixed the problem. When Edwards called again this month, the problem was still there. She posted a video to TikTok. It has roughly 2 million views. The system, when asked to provide Spanish language service, responds in English with a Spanish accent, using Spanish words only for numbers. Your estimated wait time is less than 3 minutes, which is either a bug, a design choice by someone who has never met a Spanish speaker, or a bleak commentary on the state of AI deployment in government services, where the machine has learned to approximate the sound of a language without understanding a single word of it. The Department of Licensing says it is working on a fix. The Department of Licensing has been working on a fix since last summer. Story 2. On Thursday, Florida Highway Patrol conducted a traffic stop in Winter Haven after noticing that a Ford pickup truck towing a utility trailer had a non-functioning tag light. The driver, identified as Rendon Casildoek, was found to have a suspended Georgia driver's license. A K9 unit alerted to the vehicle. Officers searched the truck bed and found coolers containing iced tilapia and 13 live iguanas, many with their feet zip-tied behind their backs. The iguanas were transporting to a local rescue shelter. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is leading the wildlife investigation. One could dwell on the specifics of why a man with a suspended license was transporting bound iguanas and chilled tilapia in the back of a pickup truck at night. But the more instructive detail is the tag light, the single broken light that brought the entire enterprise to the attention of law enforcement, which is the Florida equivalent of the loose thread that unravels the entire sweater, if the sweater were made of reptiles and fish. Story 3. The Volo Museum in Volo, Illinois, received a $50 speeding ticket from the New York City Department of Finance. The ticket alleged that a vehicle registered to the museum had been photographed traveling 11 miles per hour over the speed limit in a school zone in New York City. The vehicle in question is a replica of KITT, the talking car from the 1982 NBC television series, Knight Rider, which has been stationary and on display at the museum for years. Security footage confirms the car was parked at the time of the alleged violation. New York City operates up to 750 speed-detecting cameras, and when one of them captures a vehicle exceeding the limit, city staff review the photographs and mail a ticket to the registered owner. Somehow, the system connected the novelty license plates on a museum display car to the museum's address in Illinois. The museum's marketing director, Jim Wojdyla, said they were still trying to figure out how a car that has not moved in years received a ticket from a city it has never visited. They have requested a hearing. They have also updated their Facebook header to read, home of the Knight Rider KITT that famously got a speeding ticket in New York City without ever leaving its exhibit in Illinois. Another post reads, "Does anyone have Hasselhoff's number? He owes us $50. A spokesperson for the New York City Department of Finance said they are looking into the matter, which is how bureaucracies acknowledge that their automated systems have accused a television prop of a traffic violation, without expressing any particular urgency about correcting it. Day 85, the connective tissue is not hard to find. A A mine that regulators already knew was dangerous continued to operate until 90 people were dead, because the coal was more urgent than the warning. A country's top intelligence official departs because of a personal crisis, leaving the entire apparatus adrift because the position was always more about loyalty than institutional continuity. A voice assistant was tasked with speaking Spanish and responded in English with a Spanish accent, because the system was designed to approximate the appearance of accessibility without delivering the thing itself. 13 iguanas were found with their feet bound behind their backs in the back of a pickup truck, because someone decided that was an acceptable way to transport living creatures. A car that has not moved in years received a speeding ticket because an automated system connected a novelty plate to a real address and generated a real fine without any human being asking whether any of this made sense. The machines are not coming for us. They are already here, and they are not even competent.